There you heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressing thousands of Indian Americans in New York, and he's made major announcements. He's announced 2 Indian consulates in Houston as well as Los Angeles. He said the one that he's announced for Seattle is already functioning, and he spoke about his personal life as well. He spoke about his personal journey before joining politics and how he had toured several several states in the United States of America, even before he had got any official position. He spoke about AI. He said it is not just artificial intelligence, but also American Indians, the spirit that is powering the new world order. And he spoke of India's journey so far and how India is aspiring to be a developed nation going forward and has become the launch pad for various technologies. And he said that he can assure all those present there that there will be Make in India 6G going forward.
Absolutely. Basically, brand India there in New York. Prime Minister stating in many different ways that it is India's time. India is unbeatable. India is unstoppable. Talked about, in fact, he listed extensively milestones of New India under his governance in the last 1 decade. How India has moved and made major strides in various parameters or spaces, including technology, social upliftment, and how India has jumped up from 10th to number 5th, and it's on course to be number 3rd and number 2 and onwards and upwards India's journey. Prime Minister Modi talking about how India is the youngest nation of the world, as Munmun rightly put it. He talked about artificial intelligence and how it is also being seen or perhaps known as aspirational India. Besides that, the resounding welcome given to Prime Minister Modi. He started, of course, he even started with play out of National Anthem of United States of America, and that was followed by National Anthem of India. Prime Minister spoke about how Namaste has become multinational, and he in numerous ways and in numerous occasions, he spoke about the potential of Indian diaspora and how Indian diaspora has always been India's strongest brand ambassadors. I think these are live visuals coming from New York as Prime Minister Modi makes his way out of the event venue. And he did mention that this is a very, very important year, not for India, but also for the world, and how diaspora, the Indian diaspora in US, in fact, plays a very important role in terms of bringing 2 nations, one the oldest and one the largest democracy of the world, together. He addressed the Indian diaspora from the stage. These are the visuals live. It's a strong Indian diaspora of at least 25,000 packed audience, that's what we have been told, and there were more registrations, over 16,000 people, many of them traveling from various states, crisscrossing America, more than 40 making it to the venue.
So 2 new consulates, one in Boston and one in Los Angeles, have been announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He had mentioned that the one that he announced for Seattle has already become functional. And look at the love and adulation being poured by members of the Indian community for Prime Minister. The gesture of Namaste at the very start of his address, the Prime Minister said that Namaste is multinational. It's gone from local to global, and it's you who have done it. That is the members of the Indian community that have done it, and that they have come here from long distances, he acknowledged. He also said that as PM, he's got so much love from Indian Americans. He referred to how he was there in 2014 for the Madison Square event, and in 2015 in San Jose, then in 2019 in Houston, then in 2023 in Washington, and then in 2024 now in New York. And he said that every time the Indian community has broken records, and look at the kind of affection that is visible, reciprocal gestures, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reciprocating the warmth that he's receiving from members of the Indian community. It's always an electrifying experience for members of the Indian community in the midst of the Prime Minister. They're all very excited. We've seen at least on two occasions in Delaware after the Prime Minister arrived in the United States. There were members of the Indian community all very eager to greet him, to shake his hands, to take his autographs and signatures, to take selfies with him. And here, again, Indian Americans coming out in record numbers to greet their Prime Minister, many of whom would be seeing the Prime Minister for the first time.
Yes, and Prime Minister Modi addressed the Indian diaspora from the stage. The event which just concluded a while back as far as his address from the stage is concerned. Reportedly over 16,000 people, many of them traveling from all corners of the United States overnight, gathered at this stadium, the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, to welcome Prime Minister Modi and also listen to his much-awaited speech at the community reception, the speech which almost lasted for over an hour. And there were many important things that Prime Minister spoke about, whether it's about Brand India, India's positioning globally, and most importantly, 10 years of Modi governance in the last one decade, the achievements and the achievements and milestones as far as the domestic politics, elections. He spoke about elections, he spoke about major turnaround in technology and other aspects. In fact, let's quickly now, for those of you who have just joined us, we just play some of these excerpts from Prime Minister Modi's diaspora address, which concluded a while back, where Prime Minister also highlighted how embracing diversity is part of India's culture and how unity in diversity is India's biggest strength. Let's listen.
मां भारती ने जो हमें सिखाया है वो हम कभी भी भूल नहीं सकते। हम जहां भी जाते हैं सबको परिवार मानकर उनसे घुल मिल जाते हैं। डायवर्सिटी को समझना, डायवर्सिटी को जीना, उसे अपने जीवन में उतारना, ये हमारे संस्कारों में है, हमारी रगों में है। हम उस देश के वासी हैं जहां सैकड़ों भाषाएं हैं, सैकड़ों बोलियां हैं, दुनिया के सारे मत है, पंथ है, फिर भी हम एक बनकर, नेक बनकर आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
Atul Aneja, who's an expert in foreign affairs, continues to be with us, and Ambassador Mohan Kumar, former Indian ambassador to France, is also with us. Ambassador Mohan Kumar, such a pleasure to have you on DD India. You must have heard the Prime Minister. He spoke on a number of aspects, telling the world about India's rise, telling the world about how India is increasingly taken seriously with its proactive diplomacy on the world stage as well. And he spoke about his personal journey, and also about the kind of love that he's got every time he's come here from the Indian Americans. What stood out to your mind?
Oh, I think I've been now, thank you for having me. I've now been tracking the Prime Minister's diaspora diplomacy for some time now, 10 years. He came to Paris when I was there, and then he's gone off to the US and so on. I think this time it seems a little bit different to me in the sense that, of course, he paid compliments to the Indian diaspora as he always does. He called them Rashtradoot, for example. All that is perhaps a continuation of the thread of the message that he passed earlier as well. But what stood out for me this time was that he almost made it seem like a balance sheet of his 10-year reign in power. And he went on to elaborate in great detail, and he painted the picture of India in 2014, the number of airports, the number of metros, the number of highways, just the 4G, 5G, and then fast forwarded to 2024 to give a picture to the Indian diaspora as to what has been achieved. He did it not so much with arrogance or any amount of personal investment, but merely saying that, listen, India has arrived, India is unstoppable, and the trajectory that India will now go on is really to become the third largest economy. So I think he did it rather well, I thought. This sounded more like what he has accomplished, what his government has accomplished, what India has achieved, and what the diaspora can be legitimately proud of. And then he painted the picture of where India was going. And I think he mentioned 6G, for example. He mentioned the fact that semiconductors, India can get on to the value chains, the resilient supply chains. So, all in all, a fantastic kaleidoscopic picture of where India was, where India is, and where India is going. That's the way I see it, frankly.
Okay, Ambassador Kumar, please stay with us. Let's also talk about how Prime Minister Modi appreciated the role of Indian diaspora in terms of connecting India and US, and how they have played an important role in taking this relationship between the world's largest and the oldest democracy to next level, especially in the last 1 decade. Let's listen.
आपने अमेरिका को भारत से और भारत को अमेरिका से कनेक्ट किया है। आपका स्किल, आपका टैलेंट, आपका कमिटमेंट, इसका कोई मुकाबला नहीं है। आप 7 समंदर पार भले आए गए हैं, लेकिन कोई समंदर इतना गहरा नहीं जो दिल की गहराइयों में बसे हिंदुस्तान को आपसे दूर कर सके।
Mr. Aneja, your thoughts, very inclusive yet very powerful, but from 6G technology, made in India technology, Prime Minister spoke about millets as well. So what do you think has been the underlying message as far as this particular address at the diaspora event in US is concerned?
Well, I think, Sakal, the major takeaway is that India is on the rise. That's number one. And I think there's another element today which got added, that India's rise is just not for India. India's rise, India is on the global stage now, and India's rise is going to benefit the world. And then he listed out 4 or 5 items where the world will benefit. He says India will be there for any kind of conflict resolution in the world. Any kind of innovation will have to involve India. And then he goes on adding to that list. So India is the hub, or in some way even the locomotive of the future world, of a more inclusive, a more compassionate global system, and India will be there to do that. I think that was an important addition to the fact that 2047 our aspiration is with Viksit Bharat.
Yes.
But Viksit Bharat, what will it entail?
And he coined the term push balls.
Right. But what will that entail for the rest of the world? I think that was a new dimension which got added in today's speech.
Absolutely. And coming to you, Ambassador Kumar, we've seen the launch of UPI in France and in so many territories, and there was so much focus on DPI, that is the digital public infrastructure, in the Prime Minister's address. He spoke of e-wallets, he also spoke of e-locker, seamless travel through DigiYatra. So do you think that technology is one space where the world would be watching us? We want to be a world leader even in semiconductors, for example. So in critical and emerging technologies, do you think that when India becomes developed, this would be one pillar or foundation on which India would be standing?
Oh, absolutely. I think, in fact, what India is doing is very interesting. we haven't really got on to the global supply chains, to be absolutely honest with you. Not in terms of Nike shoes and textiles and garments. You'll almost invariably find that these are produced in Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Instead, I think we have leapfrogged in a way from an agricultural rural economy to absolutely the digital public infrastructure, to technology. What he said about the panchayats having broadband connectivity, frankly, I must confess to you, I had no idea that 2/3 of the panchayats have broadband connectivity. That's, I think, amazing. So that is the kind of transition that India is making. It is, although it's almost as if we are jumping a level. You know what I mean? I mean, other countries are expected to go from agriculture to, to the manufacturing industry and then move on to services and high tech. It is almost as if we've completely skipped a stage and going straight from agriculture to, some of these service and high tech economies. The digital public infrastructure is interesting because the quadrilateral security dialogue, which just finished in Delaware, President Biden's hometown, makes a mention of the digital public infrastructure and expects India to lead that effort for the Indo-Pacific countries. So I think in terms of digital public infrastructure, the UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, there has been a lot of traction, emphasis on what India is doing. And many of us who travel now to the Western countries in the first world sometimes don't feel it is the first world because you still have to use the plastic card and you don't necessarily use a debit card. The hotels will ask for a credit card and so on. You find that quite bizarre, actually. I'm already feeling that when I go to Chicago or to New York. So I think in some ways, India has made progress which is commendable.
Right.
And I think his idea that we should get on to 6G and semiconductors is crucial because that will define the knowledge economy of tomorrow.
Right, sir. And in fact, talking about artificial intelligence, Prime Minister also said for the world AI stands for artificial intelligence, but he believes that AI also represents America, India spirit, and then later he spoke about AI also stands for aspirational India. Let's listen in.
दुनिया के लिए AI का मतलब है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, लेकिन मैं मानता हूं कि AI का मतलब है अमेरिकन इंडियन अमेरिका इंडिया, ये स्पिरिट है और वही तो नई दुनिया का AI पावर है। यही AI स्पिरिट भारत अमेरिका रिश्तों को नई ऊंचाई दे रहा है।
Let's go in for closing comments now from both the guests. Atulji, I'll come to you. It's been 2 days, a lot of outcomes already, technology roundtable to go. What do you think this visit really would mean for the India-US partnership as a whole?
See, the Prime Minister himself, the clip which you showed just now, that America is an indispensable part of the rise of India.
Yes.
And not just rise of India, but also as sort of a combination which will have global implications. That's one. I just thought one particular comment about the Quad and the public goods that it's going to provide deliver to the Indo-Pacific countries. But I think what's really happening is that this seems to be like a pilot project which can be then transported to what we can do for the global South. That this can be what we learn, the experience of Quad can then be magnified into the contributions which can make to the global South. I think the two are getting interconnected here. I mean, that's the feeling I get after listening to what the Prime Minister said.
Ambassador Kumar, India does not wait for the opportunities, but India creates those opportunities and much, much more. Basically, India Rising, India Shining story from the New York to the rest of the world, if I may have to, if I have to ask you, the message not only to the domestic audience, but there is a message for the international audience as well, because you would agree that this has been keenly watched event by the neighborhood and otherwise also.
No, you're right. I think it's India Rising, India Unstoppable, India absolutely on the rise. But I think as an ex-diplomat, allow me to say that a Prime Minister who can go to the G7 summit, follow it up with a visit to Russia, meet Putin, then go to Ukraine, meet the president there, and then come to Washington, and then next month go for the BRICS summit. I mean, that is something you would have to go back in time 50, 60 years to know whether any Indian leader ever made visits like that. I mean, I can't imagine any leader in today's world just visiting those kind of leaders and those kind of capitals. That should give an idea of what India is doing on the international stage, I think.
Yes. And the day has just begun. By the way, this was just the first engagement on day 2 of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Up next is a roundtable with technology CEOs, and there was so much focus in his diaspora address on technology as well. But we'll leave it at that. It was a pleasure to have you, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, and Atul Aneja ji. Thank you so much for joining us with your views.
Very well.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Pleasure is ours, sir. So from Diaspora event, now the focus shifts to business as usual, the other substantive part of Prime Minister Modi's 3-day visit to America. Well, we're going to take a very short break. PM Modi's Diaspora Connect, we will wrap it up here. But remember, our special broadcast continues on DD India. On the other side, our colleague Ramesh Ramachandran will take you forward ahead as far as Prime Minister's other engagements of the day in US are concerned.
Thanks for watching this special broadcast for now.
Thank you.